Shame only works on people who still need permission to exist. That is the uncomfortable truth most people never confront. Shame is not powerful on its own. It does not come with force, authority, or evidence. Shame is effective only when it finds something inside you willing to cooperate with it. And that cooperation comes from weakness, not moral weakness, but psychological dependence. Dependence on approval, dependence on belonging, dependence on being seen as good. Machiavellian psychology begins with a brutal observation. Human behavior is not governed by ideals, but by incentives and fear. Shame is one of the oldest tools used to enforce conformity because it exploits a primal instinct, the fear of exclusion. For most of history, being cast out of the group meant death. That memory still lives inside the nervous system. Shame triggers it. But what most people never realize is that this mechanism only works when the individual has not yet built internal authority. The moment a man stops outsourcing his self-worth to the crowd, shame loses its leverage entirely. People imagine shame as something imposed on them. In reality, shame is something accepted. It requires participation. The shamer makes an offer. See yourself the way I see you. The weak accept the offer instantly. They explain themselves, they justify, they apologize, they try to repair an image that was never theirs to begin with. The strong do something else. They refuse the frame. They do not rush to defend their identity because they are not dependent on the audience's verdict. Machiavellian thinking does not ask whether something is fair, it asks whether it works. And shame only works when you believe other people have the authority to define you. That belief is the real vulnerability. The moment you stop believing it, the entire structure collapses. This is why powerful individuals are often accused of being cold or arrogant. It is not arrogance, it is autonomy. They are no longer emotionally governed by the reactions of others. Shame is frequently disguised as morality. It pretends to be righteous. It claims to defend standards, values, or decency. But look closely at how shame is used in social settings, workplaces, relationships, and online spaces. It is rarely about ethics. It is about control. It is a way to lower someone's status publicly so the attacker can raise their own by comparison. This is why shame is usually delivered in front of others. Without an audience, it has no force. The Machiavellian mind recognizes this immediately. It understands that the person attempting to shame is not morally superior. They are strategically insecure. They are trying to assert dominance by destabilizing someone else. Once you see that, your internal response changes. The attack no longer feels personal. It becomes diagnostic. You are not being judged. You are being tested. And here is the critical distinction. Tests are only dangerous when you rush to pass them. The weak scramble. They overreact. They show anxiety. They show that the accusation landed. The strong remain still. They do not correct. They do not argue. They do not attempt to reframe themselves in the eyes of others. Their calm communicates something far more powerful than words ever could. Your opinion does not outrank my self-concept. This is why silence is such a devastating response to shame. Not silence born of fear, but silence born of certainty. When someone attempts to shame you and you do not react, the social pressure reverses direction. The audience stops watching you and starts watching them. The discomfort moves. The one who spoke now feels exposed. They begin to justify themselves. They retreat. The hierarchy quietly rearranges itself. Shame also fails against people who have integrated their flaws. A person who hides nothing cannot be attacked with exposure. Most shame relies on the implication, this thing about you is unacceptable. But if you have already accepted it, the implication has no teeth. You are not defensive because there is nothing to protect. This is deeply Machiavellian, not because it's cruel, but because it is efficient. Transparency to yourself makes you opaque to others. Weakness in this context does not mean kindness or empathy. It means dependency. It means needing validation to feel real. It means fearing disapproval more than self-betrayal. Shame thrives in that environment. It feeds on hesitation. It grows when you prioritize being liked over being grounded. Machiavellian psychology does not instruct you to become heartless. It instructs you to become self-governing. Once you internalize this, your behavior changes automatically. Your posture shifts. Your reactions slow down. You stop explaining yourself unnecessarily. You stop preemptively apologizing. You stop volunteering your insecurities as offerings to be judged. None of this is performative. It is structural. You are no longer negotiating your worth in public. The paradox is that people who are immune to shame are often treated with more respect, not less. This is not because they demand it, but because they don't chase it. Human beings instinctively respect those who appear internally anchored. They sense when someone cannot be easily moved, embarrassed, or manipulated. That stability signals authority. Machiavellian thinkers understand that power is not always loud. In fact, the most effective power is quiet. It does not announce itself. It does not need to dominate every interaction. It simply refuses to be destabilized. Shame fails against this, because shame requires emotional displacement. If there is nowhere to push, nothing moves. There is also an important ethical dimension that is often misunderstood. Becoming immune to shame does not mean becoming shameless. It means choosing your values deliberately, rather than absorbing them passively. It means you answer to your own code, not the shifting moods of the crowd. Machiavellian psychology respects outcomes, not appearances. A man who lives according to his own principles does not need to perform virtue to survive socially. This is why shame campaigns, whether in personal relationships, professional environments, or digital spaces, target the uncertain first. They go after those who hesitate, those who over-explain, those who seek consensus before acting. They rarely succeed against individuals who are decisive, contained, and internally aligned, not because they are aggressive, but because they are not pliable. If shame has worked on you in the past, that does not mean you are broken. It means you were human in an environment that rewarded compliance. The shift begins when you recognize the pattern, when you stop reacting automatically, when you pause and ask yourself a simple question: do I actually accept this judgment? If the answer is no, nothing else needs to follow. The Machiavellian lesson here is not about confrontation, it is about position. You do not defeat shame by fighting it head-on. You defeat it by standing outside its reach, by refusing the role it assigns you, by maintaining internal sovereignty when others attempt to drag you into their narrative. Once you reach that point, something interesting happens. Shame stops appearing as a threat and starts appearing as a signal. It tells you who is threatened by your presence, who is uncomfortable with your independence, who benefits from your compliance. That information is far more valuable than approval ever was. Shame only works on the weak because weakness is the absence of self-rule. Strength, in the Machiavellian sense, is not cruelty or dominance. It is independence of judgment. It is the ability to remain composed under social pressure. It is knowing who you are without needing confirmation. And once you have that, shame becomes noise. Loud, emotional, ineffective noise.
If this perspective challenged the way you think about power, social pressure, and self-respect, take a moment to engage. Like this video if it gave you clarity. Share it with someone who still struggles with external validation. Comment with your thoughts or experiences, and subscribe to the channel if you want more content on psychology, power dynamics, and self-mastery.